Welcome to the show. This is where your offers get sharper, your messaging gets stronger, and your business becomes impossible to ignore. Let's begin. This is the Marketing Makeover Show. Let me fix your marketing in real time. Hey everyone, welcome to the Marketing Makeover Show. I'm here with Luann, and she has got a really cool business. And just like a lot of you, sometimes marketing starts to fall flat. The messaging's not resonating with the ideal audience. And today my goal is to help her flip that upside down and start to speak to her ideal client so intimately, so relevantly that they can't help but pay attention and buy. So welcome, Luann. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. I'm excited.
I'm excited that you're here as well. We spoke a little bit before we started here, so I have a good understanding of your business. But let's tell everyone else who's watching a little bit about your business, kind of where you are right now in this process, in this journey, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. So I have been in financial services for over 20 years, and a few years into it, I was interviewing a couple that wanted to get a mortgage pre-qualification. And I got to see credit report and saw like almost $250,000 of education debt. And I told her, I said, you've got a mortgage already. It's just in education debt. And she said, don't worry about that. That's my medical school loans, and they're not in repayment yet, so they don't count. And I realized at that time that there was a real lack of education, financial education in regarding college. Because if you end up overspending, say $100,000 on the cost of college, that's like $500,000 missing from your retirement account. So I decided I've got to look into this a lot further, and decided that was how I was going to specialize my practice. And so over the years, my business is built primarily from referrals, which has been wonderful, but it's getting those initial folks that is always, the difficult part. And so that's why I'm here to get your words of wisdom, because I feel like I don't seem to be talking to the right people. Mm-hmm. And everybody that I tell about my business, they say, oh my gosh, that is so needed. You must be so busy. And I'm thinking, if everybody is saying that, why am I not busier? So, primarily I just help families figure out how not to overpay for college so that it's not going to be a retirement issue, how the students can find the right fit schools that they're going to fit academically, socially, but also find, a skill set to be able to support themselves as an adult, so that they're not going to go home and live in mom and dad's basement, sending out resumes that are going to get checked and stopped at the door by AI, instead of learning the people skills to go out and network and such. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. And so I'm looking for some of your wisdom here, Chris.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I can help. I know I can help. What I like to do is I like to kind of back it up and talk about the primary business focus. I like to think about who exactly should we be speaking to, because there are a lot of different potential subsegments of this audience that you could speak to. And there's different layers of schools. There's different layers of financial abilities inside of families. And then there's also potentially a lot of referral people, a lot of referral networks you can tap into that may be even stronger to focus on. So I want to dive into all that and just kind of understand, and let me ask you some more specific clarifying questions so we can kind of guide you through that right now. So what I'd start with at the moment is, you started earlier and said that a lot of your business currently comes from referral. So let's unpack that. Who's actually referring these families or students to you, and what does that trigger at the moment?
The referrals are coming from families that I've worked with.
Okay.
So it's not like a school system is sending people my way or such. It's mostly the folks that I've worked with in the past that know other families that have students that are coming up in high school and such.
If you had to tell me right now and train me or teach me how to refer someone to you and when, what would you do? What would you say?
I guess I would say if you were happy with my services, and most of the time they are, and if you have other friends or family, colleagues that have kids that are just starting in high school, this would be a good time to introduce us because just like you said, I wish we met you sooner. Most of the families that I meet with, they don't start looking for some help until halfway through their junior year in high school. And by that time, it's too late to make any
Mm.
changes in financial strategies. Their kids have already got zoomed in on the wrong kind of schools that the family's not going to be able to afford. So that's how I talk to the folks that I've worked with.
What about if we had to reframe that in a way? You said, okay, when someone experiences this issue or this moment and they've tried this and it didn't work, or they've tried this and they got overwhelmed, that's when you should send them to me. Have you ever had that type of language?
No.
Okay. Maybe something we'll integrate in there as well. One of the things with business in general is we can only solve problems that people already woke up this morning believing exists. And I think one of the biggest issues you've probably had for many years here is that not everyone believes this is a problem.
Correct.
You know, I mean, the idea of you talking to people and they're like, wow, you're going to be so busy. Some people see it and then others don't, right? And you have to go through enough and have enough perspective to find value in a service like this and guidance like this. And without that perspective, it has no value, it has no merit, probably in most cases. And it's not that it's not valuable, it's just for the perceived value to the person you're speaking to. And a lot of times people also are not trained to understand what that trigger should be, right? And I'll give you some examples of what triggers a transaction in general. For you, it should be a child entering their 10th grade year, entering into 9th grade. Or maybe it's a very specific type of child who's brilliant and is really focused on STEM versus something different. It may be someone who's got to go through school on something without athletic scholarships. Maybe a child specifically with their sights on Ivy League schools. Like, it's got to be something very specific and at a very specific time. And what you're saying is more of your clients, unfortunately, come to you in a very reactionary measure where they're coming to you at the end of the junior year because they feel like they're behind. Well, unfortunately, that's how it's probably most of the time always going to work, because until someone's had that moment, they've seen the elephant in the room and now the problem is worth solving, they're not going to pay to solve it. And they're also not going to pay to solve a problem that starts in 4 years from now when it's so early today. And that's what's so interesting about what you're doing is you probably could tackle all these different segments of people at different times in different ways. You're probably still going to have 50% of your business, even 5 years down the road from now, after we implement what we're going to learn today together, will still come from reactionary moments, because people don't pull out their wallet to spend money until it becomes a problem. And that's just human nature, especially in today's world. They're not going to solve a problem for later. They solve a problem that's the front burner right now, not the back burner. And that's just how it works. Which cool part is you get to charge a premium when there's a rush job. Just like if you were a plumber, you can charge weekend rates and rush rates if you'd like to. You don't have to, obviously, because I know you're in this for more than just money, but that is a benefit to it. And then also you'll most likely get a much stronger referral network from those type of students who time's ticking, because it's also urgent for them, right? People they just don't take action until it makes sense for them to take action. So I think that's something I want to talk about a little bit. And I want to go over maybe a plan to tackle how to talk to 8th graders going into 9th grade over that summer. I want to talk to students who are specifically non-athletic focused. They don't have a chance getting an athletic scholarship, and they're just okay students. How does that look for them? Somebody else who's Ivy League bound and just super brilliant, could even graduate early. How do we, knowing college is going to be very expensive and they don't have merit scholarships, how can we set up? And how can we start niching down into very specific types of students you help? Because I think the more you're able to niche in and talk about the unique, specific moments and scenarios, the more it will become relevant to the parents. I think without that, general marketing will always get you general results. It'll always be generic and it'll be kind of just right? But until we specialize and focus into something. So interesting, there's a business called Wall Street Mastermind. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
A company that we used to own did all of their sales. We owned a company that did sales, training, recruiting, and management. And one of our sales management clients for selling over the phone was Wall Street Mastermind. And it was a guy named Sam who went through his own journey of trying to get a job with one of the top 5 firms in Wall Street. And he realized that the path started in high school and learning how to get into the Ivy League schools and then getting your foot in the door to one of those big 5 banks, right? So he created a multi-million-dollar business. It's still around today. It's still thriving, called Wall Street Mastermind, where they help students who are either Ivy League school bound or already in Ivy League school position themselves not for what you're teaching, but for the level beyond that, which is how to get your foot in the door with the Wall Street top 5 banks, which is pretty interesting. So it's a very similar premise to what you're doing. It's just a step beyond. And they didn't really find a lot of success until they got ultra specific. And once again, about 50% of their revenue comes from more reactionary juniors who should have come to them 2 years ago. And they're at a disadvantage now. So he's marketing to those people who are in need now. He's marketing to the people who are going to be preparing and getting ready for that transition. And he's hitting both sides. So just kind of an interesting case study that does have a parallel to what you're doing. So I figured I'd mention it to you. Something to look into. And then when you look at Wall Street Mastermind, it doesn't sound like that's what it is, right? But that's right. The name of the company. So it is what it is. And Sam's a brilliant guy, very nice man. I know him. And they do great work. They do great work. And they sell a system or service similar to what you're doing at some level that's helping them achieve X, Y, or Z, right? So one of the things leading off with that last statement is let's talk about your service in more detail. I know we reviewed it earlier, but for the audience here, what exactly does the service that you're offering entail? Can we be as specific as possible? And then after that, I'm going to ask you for that kind of what we call a so that statement. And the so that statement is you're going to hire me to do this so that you can do this, right? We have to be able to start talking about the whole, not the drill. So first we're going to learn about the drill, which is the actual features and benefits of what you're doing, but the whole is going to be the result after. So let's start there. So just tell me a little bit more about the actual service and walk us through it step by step.
Okay. So I like to package everything. I find that if somebody, contacts me and said, hey, can you help us with essays or just something, I prefer not to, because there's so many things that are already missing. So typically what I do when I have, a family reach out to me, we'll have a Zoom meeting to see, are we going to, is this going to be a good fit with the parents as well as with the students? And I start with the financial foundation of the parents, manage their expectations of what they think college is going to cost. They're still thinking 20, 30 years ago when, they paid for college themselves and they're going to have their kids do the same. And they find out that, oh my gosh, the cost of college has increased, over 1,000% since they went. So then we look at why is the student looking to go to college? What's their expectation of what they're going to get out of it? Well, a lot of them, they're still kids. They're still in high school. I don't know. I'm going to be either a brain surgeon or, an engineer. Girls always want to be veterinarians. But a lot of kids don't have a clue. So we start with the assessments and help them figure out how they're wired and what are good opportunities that would be ideal for them and kind of work on that. Because if we work backwards, let's find what you're going to enjoy doing, once you get out of college, so that you can support yourself as an adult. And so then we take and find, all right, so let's look at those careers that support that. Now let's find the majors that support those careers. Now we're going to start looking for the colleges that support all of that. Because if they're, coming to me and say, oh, I want to go to Penn State, or I want to go to Harvard, or I want to go to UCLA or such, and they find out that those schools don't even offer what they're going to college for. Well, then they get there and they finally realize what they want to do without, any guidance or a path to follow. Now they may end up having to transfer to another school. that adds to the cost. A lot of retaking classes that they've already taken adds another fifth or even a sixth year on that graduation. They're out of the workforce all that much longer. So again, my focus has always been, let's make college affordable, and the rest of it is going to be, kind of the bonus as far as helping the students find their right fit, what's going to work for them. And so then once we dial into that, then it's, of course, the SAT and ACT and the essays and the applications and the visits. But you mentioned scholarships earlier. The scholarships, especially athletic, are not what they were 20 years ago. So it's not, parents have spent tens of thousands, sometimes more, on their kids starting soccer at the age of 4 all the way through high school, thinking that's going to be their ticket to college. And soccer isn't a money sport. So maybe they might get $3,000 a year in an athletic scholarship, and they were expecting a full ride.
Yeah,
Those full rides are not as easy to get anymore.
they're
So
not.
it's managing all of those expectations. And if we can start early enough so that they can understand what they need to do if those things are important to them. So, and oftentimes, the most common statement I've heard over the years is, "I wish we had met you sooner to know that we should have started our planning." Not just the financial planning, but what the student should be doing as well to make themselves market themselves to the schools. What makes them unique? What makes them choose them over another student that has the same grades and scores as them? What's going to find that fit to get into an Ivy or another school? Of course, we have to look at the affordability of it as well.
Sure. Well, yeah, I definitely see your financial advisor or CFP background for sure, because I see the way that you take someone through a plan, and it's a needs analysis and a discovery session for you and for the client. I think it's brilliant. A couple questions I have for you, and and I hope I don't hear generic answers. Just up front. Who is not a good fit for the service? Tell me about the student that's not a good fit for the service.
The student alone. So if they are dead set on they're only going to look at certain schools, and they also feel I'm this number 1 or 2 in my high school, I'm not going to have any trouble getting into the schools that I want to get into. They're not coachable. Their head is in a different place. They only want to go to an Ivy League school. They won't listen to anything. That is not going to be a good fit for me, because most of the time, those Ivies are not going to be affordable for that family. And, unless, they're independently wealthy and they're willing to spend, over $400,000 for an undergrad degree.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And they have to be, respectful. The best students for me are kids that, they're willing to be open to find out more about themselves, what makes them tick, so that I can help guide them down a path. Ultimately, it's always going to be their decision.
Yep.
But, with a little bit of, that's why I called myself your college planning coach years ago, because kids listen to coaches. They don't listen to parents.
So a couple things for me as well. I imagine that someone else is not a good fit for you as someone who's lacking ambition, or there's mismatched ambition where the parents are making this much more of a high priority than the student. I imagine that's difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately it does happen. And parents, with most of them, good intentions, they think that they want to set their kids up for a successful life, and come from old way of thinking that there's only a certain name of schools and such that are going to help their students. And what we're finding, that mindset is, that it's changed over the years. And it's not so much where you went to college. It's what did you do while you were there? Those
Sure.
internships that they can do in college are really, I think, probably the most important thing that a student can do while they're in college.
Or specializing in something the world actually needs,
Yeah.
which is staying away from getting liberal arts and psychology degrees in today's world, and more going into user experience AI and like things that are more marketable in today's world than they were 30 years ago, I imagine. But
Well, kind of yes and no. Liberal arts, I mean, you know, engineering firms, they need people that can talk to a client, that they don't just want that geek.
yeah,
And I say that
you need
tongue
those
in
guys.
cheek. My husband and my son were those kind of geeks,
Mhm.
So, but you need people that can talk to someone, make the sale. So they still need that liberal arts background, but a blend is always
Mhm.
good.
Sure. So let me go over a couple things. One, I'm feeling like offer market fit's got to be a big focus here, where we have to only talk to the right people and ignore or actually repel the wrong ones. Besides the students that are dead set on one school, they're in the top 1-2%, and they're very, very confident or cocky and they can handle it on their own, etc. And students where the ambition between the parent and students not aligned, where if the student really wants it but the parents aren't willing to pay for it, or the parents want it for the student doesn't care, that's very difficult. Let's talk about socioeconomics for a second and some of the demographics. I'd have to imagine that there probably has to be some level of ambition to go off and study something that's going to be expensive, or go to a school that's expensive in nature, rather than you're not going to attract a ton of people who want to go to junior college, or it's college is not a big deal in the family. I imagine it's got to be a family that either values education at a very high level, or the family is all college graduates, or the family comes from academia, but blending with the same part of they're not independently wealthy and they're not dirt poor. Maybe there's like this middle ground where you're really focusing, or maybe most of the success cases you have and who you've been attracting is probably middle class families that aren't super wealthy but not wealthy, educated, value academics, and they have children that are ambition of doing something that is going to be expensive to pursue at some level. Is that correct, or am I misaligning this or misassuming?
Well, I think they don't understand that it's going to be as expensive as it is. And that's the key to, getting started earlier. But I think you hit it on the nail, that those families, that education is important, but they also expect the student, they're getting educated to get out and be able to support themselves as an adult, get into a career. The days of I'm going to go to college to find myself, and just just everybody wants to be a super smart person and discuss all the all the changes of the world and such, and they don't relate to, okay, when I graduate, what's next? They can't continue to just stay in college.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be that deciding point, that am I going to get that return on investment? And those are the folks that I think, that would be attracted more. They're looking at that return on investment, as well as, helping their kids get something that's going to help them get a good start in life without being burdened by a lot of debt.
So back to one of the things I was telling you I'm going to ask for in a little bit is really more the whole, not the drill. So I understand the service now, and there's going to be layers and complexities to it, I'm sure, depending on the need of the student. Some are going to need more help with prep for standardized testing, some more because they're trying to get into more competitive schools and maybe more hands-on. So I can see there's a different level. It's not just a one productized set package, even though you say you do bundle it, but it may be at some level custom to the student's need, right? Although it's the same ingredients, just different focuses. Is that correct?
Exactly. Because there's no cookie cutter with any of this.
Yeah.
Every single day I talk to somebody who has a little bit of a different spin, a
Mhm.
little bit of a different problem. So that's what's in, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And being able to help a family to help their kids and not get into that, that excessive
Sure.
burden of debt.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question now. Really, what's the outcome statement? That statement. What's the whole here? Is it, what are you actually providing as the result at the end of the day? Is it saving a certain amount of money overall during the entire college experience? Is it getting someone into their dream school? Is it getting someone on a path to get the career that they want? Like, what's the outcome?
The first outcome is minimizing a lot of stress and helping that parent know that they're in good hands with somebody who has been doing this for 20 plus years, so that with all the changes that are constantly happening in this education world, that they've got somebody that's on top of it. That's probably the number one. And then it's the, geez, I can help them save, $50 to $100,000 of overspending on the cost of college. And what is that going to look like further on down the road when mom and dad are getting ready to retire? But what if they do overspend, and now that they had to take on the loans, that is going to be even a bigger ding to their retirement, but also for their kids getting started off. So, and I kind of get distracted sometimes.
Okay.
So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you said so. Minimize stress throughout the process. Save $100 to $50 to $100,000 on the overall cost of college, whether that's real savings or helping them not overspend. What else?
Just helping their students know that it's not just one choice. They have other choices, and be prepared to pivot, so that the ultimate goal is that they're finding a place to go that they're going to call home for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and get that return on investment of not just the financial, but on the time spent, how they're getting them so that they're going to flourish as an adult once they graduate, and have those opportunities to, we all want our kids to be able to do better than what we did.
Sure.
And unfortunately, we're at a generation of that's not happening because of the costs of things. So if we can help them get back to that, that's a goal for me.
Okay.
So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So kind of going back to my beginning thing, and we're going to jump in and do some marketing in a second, but kind of going back to my beginning statement is, you can't solve a problem that they don't believe exists. So we can only speak to people who already believe this is a problem. Otherwise, it's falling on deaf ears. It makes no sense to focus on it. We talked about who's not a good fit. Obviously, if the parents don't really care, then it's not going to work. If the student doesn't really care, it's not going to work. If the student's way too cocky and knows that they're headed to a top 1 school, why do I need you? Hold on, why are we talking, right? And then people who are not college focused or have never made education a priority in their lives, their children's lives, definitely don't care about this at all. So we kind of narrowed it down to try to focus on just people who care, which is one. Number two, the idea of like minimizing stress throughout the process. We can't use that as a benefit if people don't understand that this process will be stressful, right? So without a point of reference, it doesn't matter. And then the idea of saving 50 to 100 grand on college is probably definitely the strongest anchor that I've heard so far, because that's easy to understand. And there's not one person you'll speak to who doesn't want to do that, even if they have money. I think some of the other problems that you solve, I didn't hear you say these direct words, but I'll say them myself, is the idea of maybe making the right school choice up front. Maybe there's a statistic out there of how many students end up going to the wrong school, and then it leads to dropout, gap years, and they never finish. There may be a lot of people do that. A lot of people. Well, could you prevent that? Which is one of maybe increase the likelihood of graduation by 25%. Statistically, that probably is pretty close, and we can look into that. And also the idea of college readiness at some level, which is understanding how to choose the right major, which you've talked about, choosing the right college, understanding if you should be bridging from one college to the next to save 100 grand in the process up front. Should you be focusing on certain ways to get their ACT and SAT scores up, how to write the applications and really market yourself. So I see a lot of the stuff that you've said, and it has a lot of great value to people who already believe it's a priority. So I think for us, we just have to learn how to market and find the people who care about this up front. So before we get into that, let's talk about your past successes and your track record, your case studies. What do you have currently that shows these case studies? Do you have video testimonials or interviews on Zoom where you've talked to someone after they've seen the result? Do you have anything like that?
I have written testimonies.
Okay.
I've not had anybody go on Zoom or video or such. You know, a lot of the folks that I've worked with, they're pretty private. They're not on Facebook. They're to ask them, hey, would you give me a video testimony? I would feel a little bit uncomfortable doing that, but I've gotten written testimonies and thank yous and such.
Okay. As much as I understand that, it doesn't matter much in our world. Without third-party credibility and social proof, what you just said doesn't even matter to most people, right? Because we live in a world where when we want to buy something, we go to Amazon. Before we buy it, we look at the reviews. And if the reviews aren't great, we don't buy it. If there's no reviews, we don't buy it, right? And whenever you look at a high ticket purchase at any level, especially 7,000, 10 grand, 15 grand, if there's no proof, why would I do it? It's all about perceived risk. At the end of the day, people perceive it risky without proof it works, right? So even though that's true, we've got to figure out a way to create case study data. And the good news is there's a big difference between a review and a video testimonial and a case study. A case study can be your recollection of what happened. You can say, and they call this the Jesus method, actually, in marketing. They say how you would create a case study is you say what life was like before Jesus, what life looked like after Jesus, and then why you would recommend Jesus to a friend. Essentially, is that easy framework. But for a case study for this, it's simple as saying, here's how I found the Johnson family and specifically Claudia, who wanted to be a vet. And here's where they were, snapshot, snapshot, snapshot. You can change the names for protection. And here's exactly what we did. Here's the outcome. And then here's what life looks like now. Like having 50 of those that are very specific, they're very relevant, they're relatable to somebody else who's looking to do the same type of thing. They have the same fears. They have the same roadblocks demographically. Like that's very, very powerful. So I would encourage you to create those for every single person you work with. Whether you can get them to send you a text screenshot as well, maybe the feature there would be great to keep them private and not do videos. But you've got to have something that says my process works, number one, okay? Number two, everything you've told me you've done, we've got to decommoditize that because unfortunately you compete with millions of people who do this as well. Whether you think about it this way or not, every guidance counselor is supposed to be doing this.
Well, they don't.
They don't, right?
It's not their job.
But really. I'll tell you, being from a guy who worked in medical aesthetics, cash pay medical aesthetics, the biggest issue we have is, hey, I have insurance for this. Why wouldn't I just go to somebody else, right? When it's already paid for, it's already free. Why pay somebody else privately? And that's a massive issue everywhere. It always will be. Hold on. That sounds like a guidance counselor. My kid has a guidance counselor at the school. Miss Johnson's not going to charge me. Why wouldn't I go there? That's unfortunately what you're going to be dealing with, and you've probably been dealing with for a long time. So we have to figure out how to take what you do, your process, your specific service, and how you uniquely can get them an outcome that the guidance counselor can't in most cases. And we've got to give it a name. We've got to decommoditize it. We've got to make them, when they hear it, say, whoa, this is different. And this is something I already believe my guidance counselor at my kid's school can't do, right? And we've got to be able to talk about it in that way, give it a unique name. It has a unique mechanism that provides a unique benefit that no one else can give them, right? That's a big part of marketing. Otherwise, at the end of the day, it's a commodity service, even though it's not very common. You know, like there's not like thousands of people out there competing with you necessarily. Maybe there are that I'm not aware of because it's not in the forefront of focus, but you are competing with a free version that people perceive as free and readily accessible, and that the government through the state and the school boards have provided for their children already. And whether they should be doing that, whether they do it or not, who cares? But for me, that's when I get myself into the head of the consumer. That's why your business has been done well with referral, because it's got a know, like, and trust transfer, and it's had third-party credibility from someone saying, yes, we did this, it worked, you need it. That's why going through referral is always the best way to go anyway. But if you want to go and broaden that out to more marketing, we've got to go through these processes, right? So number one, we've got to decommoditize. We've got to start talking about the unique process you have that has this one unique method, or several unique methods that produces a unique outcome that you cannot get by going to your school guidance counselor, right? Number two, we have to only talk to the right people and repel the wrong ones. And we only want to talk to somebody at some level who has the right foundation of the right customer avatar, which means education's a top priority. We have an ambitious student that matches the same level of what the parents want for them. They're making it a priority. They feel like in their nature that they prepare for things. And I imagine there's certain types of students that go to certain types of schools that may lend well to this, like private schools and homeschool families. Correct me if I'm wrong. I imagine this is a little bit more of their focus, or magnet school program kids. These kids are more ambitious. They're on the fast track. And a lot of times homeschool families pull their kids home because of a lot of reasons. And this is something that they pay attention to, and they pay for education in private and homeschool. Like they pay money for it rather than just going to public. So I'd imagine talking to those type of people would give us a lot more firepower anyway. When it comes to referral sources, I'm wondering, is there any resource out there, any website or any group of people or one specific role that would be most likely to refer someone to you outside of a parent-to-parent referral? Have you run into that?
Probably financial advisors, CPAs. A lot of parents will go to them to help them with the financial documents and such. Or they're talking to their financial advisor about should we save for college before our retirement, or vice versa, and
Sure.
such.
What about Sylvan Learning Center? What about ACT prep tutors? What about things like that? Because that shares a customer avatar with you, really. Because if someone's focused enough, or their family's making them go to prep courses, that's only one part of the process. Could you create a referral network with those people?
I did for a little while, but they have started, especially when schools went test optional, and everybody said, well, you don't have to worry about SAT or ACT. So a lot of them have gone into doing the similar services that I provide. So then it became more of a competition rather than as a cooperation.
It doesn't have to be, though. You can also incentivize them financially for referrals, and then they don't have to pick up your service, and you can work together. Is possible. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, the effort of trying to compete with you may not be worth it for them, or they don't have the time or energy or the know-how, and they'd rather just deal with somebody and let them stay in their lane. So it's kind of your part of your sales pitch there. So cool. So with all this being said, let me ask you, do you have a name for what you do? You have a name for your process?
I call it a college clarity blueprint, or also, your step. I've changed it so often because I'm still kind of searching for that perfect.
Sure.
Clarity a lot of times goes into it, trying to put that focus on such a confusing process. So.
Okay. With the only issue, and we're going to go through Pocket Marketer in a second, is that doesn't really talk about minimizing stress, saving $50,000 to $100,000 in college, making sure the student chooses the right school the first time and increase their likelihood of graduation by 30%. And also having the right scores, the right way to market the student to get them in the school that they desire. It doesn't speak to me that way, right? If that makes sense. Like, it doesn't tell me any of that. So I think we need to work on that. And then the next part really is, your process has this name that they've never heard of before that's intriguing, intellectually intriguing, and emotionally compelling. And it's got to have a unique mechanism, which is these unique things I do create this unique result that you can't get simply by going to your guidance counselor, right? So we have to kind of dial that in. And that's what Pocket Marketer was made to do, is to take everything we just talked about and be able to literally, and I've been recording this side, we're going to upload this in the Pocket Marketer, and we're going to let the world-class marketing brain have all the context it needs now to come and help us create the big marketing idea and the unique mechanisms how we talk about it, really dial in the customer avatar, and then start to be able to create the messaging that's necessary. So we'll do that in just a moment. One of the things that I have in general for you is I think it's an amazing service. I think the price is definitely worth it. I think the way that you position the price, the way that you take payments in a certain way, I think the idea of adding in a guarantee would be pretty powerful, or a conditional guarantee that revolves around them doing certain things as well, that can really reduce resistance and friction to the sale. And then I imagine you don't have much friction to the sale really, because most of the people you get are coming from referral. So I'd like to start on the more of the scalable marketing side with you, is what can we actually push down on the gas or throw fuel on the fire and create more opportunities for you, rather than just relying on referrals. And then maybe at a later date, I'll work with you for time purposes on really accelerating the number of referrals you're getting. But I think my big homework for you, besides what we're about to do, is go record as many case studies as humanly possible. And don't be afraid to not just have this as a document, but do a video as well. Put the screen up, focus on you, and just say, let me tell you about Claudia, and just talk about the whole story and talk about the emotions, right? Because one of the things that people who really resonate with what you're offering, what they're going to be looking for is they're going to be looking on how did it affect every party in the process? How were the parents affected? How was the daughter affected? How did this go into the way that she was choosing her school, and she disconnected from trying to go just the place where her friend was going because she was afraid that she was going to be lonely at school, but ended up choosing the right school. And the path that we took her down, which was uniquely for her, 2 years of junior college, because veterinarian school is going to be so expensive. And then we did it this way and this way and this way. And then we saved $100 grand. Like, give as many of those as humanly possible and just collect them. Because when you have all those there, you don't have to tell people how great your service is. Other people are telling them. Or you have something that's so relevant to their unique situation where you talk to someone, it's like, oh yeah, I've worked with a lot of girls that want to go to be a veterinarian, watch these 3 videos. And then when they get done watching the video, they're like, you're hired. You have to have that ammunition. That's going to make things so much easier, so much easier. Tell you a quick story, then we're going to jump in the Pocket Marketer. We went to a place called the Snyder Center, something like that. My daughter in 2nd grade, private school education, teacher brought us in and told us that she's like doodling in class rather than doing her work. Come to find out, she had double vision. Her vision was spinning, and she was looking like this into the camera or to the TV or anyone she's talked to somebody, and realized that she only had vision in one eye. It was blurry and it was spinning. We had no way to tell us it was like that, right? But she hit that ceiling in private Catholic school in 2nd grade where she's doing 5th grade work. She hit the ceiling, right? So we took her to this place, and it was 10 grand for 2 months. And they were going to do this. They were going to rewire her neural pathways. They were going to rewire her brain. They were going to get all of her senses through this giant system, this table, this light therapy, this vision therapy, these trusted, highly educated people. And they were going to do this process, and it was really crazy. And then they are uniquely qualified to do it because the husband is an ophthalmologist surgeon, and the wife is a neuroscientist and did brain surgery. Like, it's like crazy stuff. And then they're looking at a young man. That daughter's 16 today. Looking back, a long time ago, I didn't really have a lot of money or affluence that I have today. And that's a life-changing amount of money, 10 grand. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I look at is how much of a problem is this? Obviously, this is a bleeding problem. Speculation or being speculative, or like, is this something that's actually going to work? What's my perceived likelihood of this is actually working? Is this can be perceived as a risk, or versus this is going to be a sure bet and this is an investment rather than a gamble, right? Is my daughter willing to put in the work to make this work as well? Well, she was in 2nd grade. And I walked out in their lobby again. I didn't notice on the way in, they had 1,000 handwritten letters from children that they fixed their issues with tracking and all the things. And then they've also, like, literally hundreds of letters of autistic children who are no longer showing signs of autism from what they've done. And it blew me away. And I did not have the money, but I figured out how to get the money, and it changed her entire life. She's a straight A student. Just absolutely perfect in every way. But I go back to it, and I use that example because without those handwritten letters, I would not have done it, because it was, and they did all the right things. They had the unique mechanism. They were uniquely qualified and had the credentials. Their system was this thing I've never heard of before that produced a result that no one else in the country can produce. And that's still factual to this day. And I was even given a referral from my wife's uncle's son who had profound dyslexia, and they fixed it. And now he's in Auburn, magna cum laude, right? And even with that, it was still like, so I'm not sure. And what you're doing is nothing exactly like that. But I want you to think about the power of that social proof.
I
It's
do
incredible.
have stories that I tell a lot, of, certain families that I feel could be, similar to them. And one of the things that I focus on too is a lot of kids are not ready to go off to school, and how important it is to let them know that it's okay not to start right away. Give And most of the time it's boys. They just need a
Definitely
little bit
boys.
more time to mature, and that saves a family a ton in misdirection, and can save them quite a lot. And I have a few stories.
It's
Um,
and it's a good thing, and having those stories ready for every scenario,
yep.
and then still showing how you got the outcomes massive. So just for time purposes, I'm going to hop in Pocket Marketer.
Okay.
When you're in Pocket Marketer, you create a project. You can have as many projects as you want. And inside my account, I made a project for you. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed the world-class marketing brain our entire conversation. I recorded about 50 minutes of us conversating and talking about everything. And what I love about this is you can go in and you can ask these questions in an interview. They don't even have to know you're asking. You can ask these questions to yourself and be able to create this knowledge base for this world-class marketing brain. And there's different questionnaires depending on the type of business or the scenario. But really, we just had a great conversation where I asked you everything there is to know about what's going on in your business, the scenario. And as you can see, it's pretty robust. And what we're doing is literally giving this world-class marketing brain everything it needs to know. And then we'll go in and be able to leverage this brain with full context, right? So where we are now is we can go in and talk to a growth strategist is where I'd like to start about your project without having into any more context. And I'd like to talk about really what we discussed earlier, which is how do we create the right unique mechanism? How do we create the real big idea of how we can talk about what we do continuously, right? And that's where I'd like to start. So I'm going to start here. Hey, knowing everything you know about Luann's business, I really want to start with the big idea and really how do we dial in how we talk about what she does so she can do actual scalable marketing and get in front of lots and lots of families and students. Who should she be marketing to? Should it be the student? Should it be the parents? We want to talk about a naming scheme for her unique process that she has that you know all about now. We want to talk about how she can really repel the wrong types of students and families and attract the right ones like a magnet, and really help people understand when and why it's necessary to work with her. So let's start there. So Pocket Marketer, as you know, Luann, is just it's literally a suite of tools revolved around that marketing brain. Once you give it the context of what you've got going on, you can hop from tool to tool and pretty much build out all the marketing you could ever need for your business. And this works for people who are in agencies, who have clients. And this is something where you can go into it again and again and kind of use this as your source of truth. So while that's thinking, I gave it an hours of context right there. So it's going to think for a second. What I'm hoping to get for you right now in the next 10, 15 minutes before we end this show is really just, let's really dial in kind of how we talk about what you do a little bit better, where you don't have to feel like you have to jump between names constantly, or you have to explain what you do differently to different people you talk to, right? Let's see if we can make it a lot more consistent, where you have a lot more clarity and confidence in when you speak. Okay, so I gave this to it. It says, great, the core strategic foundation will unlock scalable marketing for Luann. Let's break this down carefully. Big idea. Let's get the core messaging that captures attention. Couple big themes: college without regret, pay less, choose right, launch strong.
Ooh, I like that.
That's a good one. Yeah, right out of the gate. The smart family's blueprint to affordable college and career success. Stop overpaying for college, plan smarter, graduate stronger. A big idea must simultaneously grab attention by emphasizing massive cost savings, promise clarity and confidence in navigating the confusing college landscape, highlight long-term impact, not just college admission, but career and adult life success, and signal the unique expertise and guidance beyond what free resources or guidance counselors provide. So who exactly to market to? Parents, students, or both? Really, what they're saying is parents, they control the money and they often the decision making. They worry about retirement, impact debt, and they want their child to succeed financially. They feel overwhelmed by college costs and the complexity of options. Secondary targets could be students. Marketing should primarily speak to the fears and hopes, but acknowledge the student's ambitions and needs. Naming unique process, make it memorable and distinctive. So the current college clarity blueprint is a start, but lacks emotional punch and clear differentiation. We need to create something that speaks to clarity, confidence, and financial wisdom, implies a proven step-by-step system, suggests a unique mechanism or a framework that no one else offers. So a couple ideas is the college affordability and success system, the Smart Start college planning method, the future-proof college pathway, the debt-free degree blueprint, the strategic college success framework. One of the things interesting, I'm going to pause, not just reading here, but depending on what's important to the parent, some of this will resonate and some of it won't, right? The idea of like the debt-free degree blueprint, how to get your kid through college without debt, with the major they want at a top school. Like if you could actually produce that primary promise, that would be crazy, right? That would work really, really well. But that's not, you're not a one-dimensional service here. That's one part of it, is to not overpay for college. College is never going to be free, and you're not trying to sell them some sort of snake oil to get it free. But thinking about the future-proof college pathway could speak to some people, but it may not be as strong. So I think it's got to be something to do with affordability and cost savings, but also the outcomes. So let's keep moving. Repelling the wrong clients or attracting the right ones. Students fixed on Ivy or bust. Okay, just kind of reiterating some of the stuff we talked about. Who to attract: families who want to spend money or save money but want to reduce stress. People or parents who value education highly and career success for their kids. Clarifying when and why people should work with Luann. Okay. So let's go into this a little bit more in detail. Let's go into the big marketing idea and like really build this out, almost like we're building out an E5 worksheet that Todd Brown would do with someone, and really understanding how to talk about what we're doing, the big idea, and break it down step by step for us, and before we choose a name. So I'm taking you through my process, and that's part of the benefit of being on here with me, is you get to go through my process. So I'm just going to go and do this for the sake of time and really dive in and see if we can come up with some magic. One of the things that I'm hoping to see is where we can really develop the big marketing idea in a way where the right person sees it and they instantly feel like it's relevant, and it's relevant enough for them to want to take action now. So we're going to work on this for a minute. Okay. One of the features that I added, Luann, recently is this Save to Copy Vault, where we can go in, since we're in your college prep process, and we can say big idea, marketing swipe file. We can call it something, and we can save it for later. Because I tend to like to save my documents and go back and check them. And one thing that frustrates me is when I'm in a tool like mine or a ChatGPT, sometimes trying to find the exact tool I use is kind of hard. So I did that as a little easy button. So big marketing idea, step-by-step core problem, what the market believes today and the pain they feel. So parents and students are overwhelmed and often misled about college costs. Many assume 529 plans and Ivy League prestige are enough without realizing the massive financial burden and lifetime consequences. Many families find themselves overpaying 50 to 100 grand unnecessarily. Students get stuck in the wrong majors or schools, leading to wasted time, higher costs, or delayed career start. Guidance counselors don't provide personalized, proactive planning, leaving families confused and reactive. The market's false beliefs and misconceptions. College is just expensive. There's no way around it. Ivy League or top 20 schools are the only path to success and worth the cost. My kid's guidance counselor is a free resources, and they're enough. We'll figure it out later, closer to application time. The only athletic scholarships and financial aid based on need matter. Okay. Big idea, how Luann's solution shatters those false beliefs with a fresh proprietary approach. You don't have to accept college debt is inevitable. With the right plan, you can save 50 to 100,000 while setting your child up for real adult success. Number one. Number two, it's not about school name. It's about the strategically choosing the right fit academically, socially, and financially to maximize ROI and reduce stress. Guidance counselors can't do what a dedicated expert college planning coach does. A personalized, proactive roadmap that covers financials, career fit, and admission strategy. Early, tailored planning focused on the full journey from career clarity to college admission, graduation, everything changes. Unique mechanisms, a step-by-step personalized college affordability and success framework that integrates deep financial strategy to prevent overspending and debt, career and major assessments to ensure the student's pathway aligns with market realities. Strategic school selection based on data-driven scholarships and ROI, application coaching, and highlights students' unique strengths to secure market aid or merit aid, ongoing support to pivot as needed, avoiding costly mistakes and delays. So starting right here, is there anything that you're doing in what you offer that's unique outside of what's highlighted?
Just giving that personal touch. A lot of folks, parents that and students, they, I hear them all the time. Well, we're not going to make a decision until we talk to Miss Luann. So I think that's a big part of what I do that is beyond just the tangible.
Understood. Okay. And then besides that, though, am I pretty much on point with what we have here? The step-by-step affordability and success frameworks.
Yep, I believe so.
Okay. Transformation. What does the client actually get after working with you? Is peace of mind knowing the family's financial future is protected, confidence in choosing the right school that fits the student's goals and budget, reduce stress through the college planning and application process. One of the things is I'm not a huge fan of this still. I just don't believe everyone believes it's stressful. But I will tell you that if they don't know, they don't know. But I'll tell you what they do care about is the fact that someone else can deal with it where they don't have to. So I'm wondering if there's a way to talk about that a little bit. Because the idea of in services, done for you services, think about the ultra wealthy, right? There is a lot of in that world where someone does the entire thing, takes it completely off their plate and handles it. Even childcare often, if you watch movies and you see these wealthy families, even their child's being cared for by somebody else. I'm wondering if there's a way to talk about the stress throughout the process and the planning and the application process, reducing that stress, how and who are you reducing it for? So if your end customer, just like when the whole family's out to dinner, you look for the person paying the bill, the end customer with the bill, you're reducing their stress. I wonder if we can talk about that more specifically. Does that make sense?
Sure. So a lot of times it's can literally take hundreds of hours of researching, trying to find what you're looking for, because this isn't in your lane. As a parent, maybe they're, an engineer and they're trying to figure out all this financial stuff and the right fit and such. So that's taking away from time that they have with their family. And then it's the arguing and hey, have you worked on your essays? Did you study for the SAT and such? So taking away a lot of that nagging so that parents can really enjoy their students' last couple of years of high school instead of being the nag. I'm like a professional nag. Mm-hmm. And the students take it better from me rather than from their parents. So taking that personal out of it, if that's kind of the stress that I'm talking about, never mind those that have that financial stress.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping to talk about, right? I wanted to be able to talk about a little bit more about the benefits to each person. So the kids' benefit is they don't feel behind, they don't feel lost, and they're not feeling like their friends all have it figured out and they don't. They feel prepared, they feel focused. For the parent, though, the idea of whether they're aware of it or not, that it's going to take hundreds of hours of these conversations, of college visits, and a lot of wasted time and effort looking at the wrong schools. And there's the ability of holding their kid accountable to do the several things that have to be done, or they're not going to get the result they're looking for. And they can just hand that off to you completely, and you can take care of every bit of it, right? So that's kind of interesting to me. And that's something I want to talk about, because at the end of the day, you're literally marketing to parents.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I think it's got to be somebody like we talked about earlier, who at some level has a base knowledge of academia, of college, has that as a focus. It's always been in the plan since little Johnny was 5. That he was going to be a doctor and go off to school, and it's a priority, and they're aware that it's a process, rather than somebody who would tell you and say, nah, we'll just handle that when it comes. Right. And then somebody else who finds value and like, what am I actually paying for? Right. When someone says, okay, it's 10 grand, what am I actually paying for? Well, you can say you're literally paying for me handling all of it for you. And it's going to be give and take, and I need your help and input. But in general, you can hand your student off to a safe pair of hands that I'm going to save you a lot of money, and I'm going to save you a lot of time. Right.
And a lot of misdirection because they're getting a lot of misinformation from people that are well-meaning sometimes, but they're giving wrong information. And
100%.
when, they look at, well, the guidance counselor should be doing this, and, maybe they should, but they're not college counselors.
Yep.
They're trying to help these kids safely get through high school. But you figure, the average guidance counselor might have 400 students that they
Yep.
have to oversee. So what? You're going to get about 5 or 10 minutes of college guidance.
And they're more on mental health nowadays and
Correct.
behavior. Yeah. So let
Correct.
me talk to Pocket Market for a second. So we've been talking about this a lot, and what I want to go through is let's really nail the naming scheme. I want to give you some more information, also the unique mechanism, and really create an entire E5 campaign on how to talk about what we do in marketing for Luann. I want you to think about, number one, we are marketing to parents. Let's talk about what's in it for the parents. What actually are they paying for in that fee of $10,000? And what exactly are they getting? Is it the fact that they can hand off this entire process to someone who's uniquely qualified to get them the result that they're not capable of most of the time doing themselves? They can save hundreds of hours of stress, worry, and also having to have the relationship with their child potentially become estranged at some level because they're pushing them and nagging them to get work done, but instead having someone else can hold them accountable and let you enjoy your kids, upperclassmen years and have this all taken care of. The other thing I want you to think about while we're doing this is, can we really address the one big objection that most likely at mass scale will be there, which is the guidance counselor at my kid's school is supposed to be doing this. And let's remind them that the guidance counselors usually have 400 kids that they're stewarding, and that they're mostly working on mental health and getting them through high school and getting them to graduate. They're really not able to spend the time with them to help them plan for college. And most of the time, probably 99%, they're not qualified to do so. Right. So somebody who's literally, it's almost like getting an insurance policy up front to make sure that your kid goes off to college the right way, save you tons and tons of money, hand off the process to somebody, almost like you would hand them off to a tutor to help them get ready for their college exams. You're not going to do that and study that book with them themselves, nor are you qualified to do so. So let's really encompass all of this information and come up with a great name, a great unique mechanism. And I want to build out the entire E5 sheet that Todd Brown would use right now. Okay. So this is where I think we're gonna get to the end and put a bow in this. And then what I'm gonna do for you is I'd like to do a follow-up at some point, but I'm gonna give you all the notes I've taken so you can put it into your Pocket Marketer account.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
gonna give you the entire thread of everything we're doing here, as well as the output as well. Put it in a Google Doc and send it to you. And then you'll have the ability to go in and literally go into projects, create a project, drop it in the knowledge base, just like you would like a custom GPT, and it will pick it up and run with it from here. So let's read this. And then just for time purposes, we'll probably have to end this episode here pretty soon. So let's get into this and let this build itself out a little bit. Overall, while this is building though, kind of what's your biggest takeaway just from our conversation today?
Oh, I just need to really hone in on not the explanation, but really look at solving the problem more than talking about the solution.
I like it because people pay for the hole, not the drill, right? And it's kind of a paradigm shift a little bit in the way we think about it. And sometimes we're really close to what we do. So it's learning to speak about it like a marketer. So good. So here's what I've got for you. Headline level promise to parents: the only college planning system designed to save you $50,000 to $100,000 in tuition, and eliminate family stress and ensure your child's path to career success without having to become their college coach or financial expert. It's one option. We have kind of the unique mechanism is the name for what your unique process is. You could have the college success compass, the debt-free degree blueprint, which although you're not doing debt-free, so I'd be careful there. The smart path college planning system, the family college advantage method, the college clarity and confidence framework. I think all of these could be considered. This is a personalized 360-degree college planning system that blends financial expertise, career alignment, admission strategy, and student coaching, delivered by a seasoned professional who acts as your family's dedicated guide and accountability partner. This system replaces guesswork and stress with clarity, confidence, and a proven roadmap that saves money and sets your child up for real success. What parents are really paying for is really peace of mind, knowing a qualified expert is managing the entire complex college planning process so they don't have to. Time freedom, no more late night research, nagging conversations, or confusing financial puzzles. Relationship preservation, avoid the stress and friction of parent-student conflict over college prep. Financial savings, potentially save $50,000 to $100,000 in tuition and debt through smart college selection, strategies for scholarships and financial planning. Career-focused results, your child finds the right college and major aligned to career success, not just getting in. And then accountability and support, a coach who keeps your child on track with test prep, applications, decisions, relieving you from that role. How's this feel?
That's perfect.
This is what I was hoping to hear here is like, for me, if you took this off my plate, because I've been doing this with my daughters, and I'm like, wow, somebody way better at me than doing this, who knows all the questions to ask that I don't, who can guide from hundreds of previous experiences, I would happy to pay this, right? But it has to be the right type of person. Addressing the biggest objection, why isn't this what my child's school or guidance counselor is supposed to do? So guidance counselors typically have 400 students each. Their focus is mostly on helping kids graduate and support mental health, not personalized college planning. Most counselors are not trained financial experts or admission strategists. They can't provide the tailored scholarship and career planning your family deserves. Think of it like hiring a specialized tutor for SAT prep. You wouldn't expect to do it yourself, and it's the same expert college planning. And this is a service, your family's insurance policy, ensuring you avoid costly mistakes and getting the best financial and educational outcome. So here's the emotional connection: fear of losing retirement savings or going into college debt, desire to enjoy the last years of college without stress and conflict, hope for a clear, confident path for a good career for their child, relief that an expert guiding is the family that's come through this complexity, pride in making smart, proactive decisions. So having all these, what I want you to be thinking about, whoops, I don't know what I just clicked on there, is this is the ingredients now in your kitchen. And you can make so many recipes now that you have these ingredients. And that's what I love about having what I have here in Pocket Marketer, right? We can go to Pocket Copywriter now, and all that context is there. We don't have to do anything special. And imagine if we said this: can you please help me write a letter from Luann to her perfect parent customer avatar who has that ambitious child, the parent who has always believed that college is inevitable and it's a focus regardless of what the world is saying in today's world, it's still relevant, and that they want their kids to get into a great school with a perfect education for them and have the greatest experience, and they want to plan in advance. Can you write a letter from Luann to this parent talking about everything that they're feeling, giving them an incredibly sense of relief that they found the right person, and then having Luann explain her process in detail and have the call to action to schedule a call to get started. So think about all the ingredients that we started with just a second ago. We can take those ingredients now, and anything in Pocket Marketer you can accomplish again and again. Email, copy, you can do advertisements, create ads that you can run on Facebook, create these really cool video sales letters or sales letters like this. And we'll read this and then we'll end this episode for today. But this is why we do this and we go through this process, is because without giving all this information that we extracted from you, Luann, to a world-class marketer or growth consultant, it's really hard sometimes to get away from what we've been doing. And we're so close to the business and our nose is too close to the tapestry to be able to step back and create the new material that's going to be necessary to get your message out. So here's where we'll finish. Dear fellow parent, if you're reading this, that means you're a lot like me, someone who's always believed that college is not just the next step, but a vital part of your child's future. You want your child to not only get into a great school, but have an education and an experience that truly fits who they are and sets them up for a successful life. In today's world, with all the noise about alternatives and uncertainty around college costs, it can feel overwhelming and even a little scary to make the right choices. You might be wondering, how do I plan ahead effectively? How do I make sure that I'm not wasting money or missing opportunities? Will my child be ready to thrive academically, socially, and financially? And I want you to know you're not alone. And more importantly, you've just found the right partner to help you navigate this complex journey with confidence and clarity. Here's what I do. For over 20 years, I've specialized in helping families like yours create a comprehensive college plan that covers both financial and personal sides of the equation. My approach isn't just about crunching numbers or filling out applications. It's about understanding your family's unique situation, your child's strengths and dreams, and the realities of today's college landscape. Together, we will build a realistic financial plan that saves you tens of thousands of dollars by avoiding costly mistakes in finding the best scholarship and aid opportunities that fit your family. We explore your child's interests and skills and goals through personalized career and academic assessments, so the college and major choices that make sense and lead to genuine opportunities. We identify colleges that are perfect fit academically, socially, and financially, schools where your child can flourish, not just survive, and prepare your child for the application process with expert guidance on standardized testing, essays, interviews, and supporting them every step of the way without taking over, and ensuring the plan stays flexible and adaptable, so if circumstances change, you're ready to pivot without the extra stress or extra costs. My goal is to take the heavy lifting off of your shoulders, reduce the stress and uncertainty, and replace it with a clear, actionable roadmap so you can enjoy this special time with your child without nagging worry that you're missing something critical. And if this sounds like the kind of support you've been looking for, let's start the conversation. Click here to schedule a no obligation call with me. In this call, we'll discover your family's unique needs and how my process can help you make confident decisions that protect your family's future and empower your child to succeed. You don't have to do this alone. Let's build your family's college plan together. With warmest regards, Luann, your college planning coach. So we'll stop there. How does that feel? Does that feel like if you took that letter and we sent out 1,000 of them and you signed it with a pen, with blue pen, and we shipped it directly to people who we know have chosen that mailing list of, let's say, ambitious children, private school, homeschool children, maybe who are in the STEM program at their school, and we actually do this in the snail mail, and a parent reads that letter, how do you feel they'll react?
Oh, well, partly as far as it going snail mail. Well, who is this person? This is, is this some spammy thing or such?
I don't think they will. I think they'll read it, and the ones that are really excited about it are going to call you.
Exactly.
But yeah, in general,
yeah.
It's just all about the market message, and that was what I wanted to walk away with you today. Was just a better market message, something that you can consistently be able to use that makes sense. It's intuitive, it's unique, it's interesting. It sounds different than what they're used to. You've already hedged the objection up front that you're going to get when you go to scale, which is, I thought this was already something that we're getting through the school for some people. So I hope this was helpful. I'll give you all of the outputs of what we did. What was your favorite part of what we went through towards the end there?
What you just read made me sound like I walk on water.
Well, I think you do, but it's all about talking to the right people. And I think identifying that the person paying the bill really at the end of the day is your first level of customer, right? And
now,
that
I agree. And I, meant that kind of tongue in cheek, but it really taking it away from me where I'm too close to it. And quite honestly, I do a pretty good job. But it's hard to brag about myself that way, which I appreciate also, what you were saying as far as the testimony letters. And I have been getting quite a few. I'm in the midst of changing out my website and going to use Pocket Marketer for that as well.
Good.
So, it's just all kind of coming together, which is nice.
Well, good. Well, I hope this was helpful. My only goal, like I told you before, is just to serve you. So I feel like if you can walk away with all the ingredients I gave you a minute ago, there's a lot of recipes you can make with that. That same thing, we can take a picture of your website, throw it in a Pocket Marketer with all this context, and it will rewrite every word of your website in seconds for you, and you can just go switch it out. Having the ability to create some videos using that same type of framework in that letter I just read to you, and being able to put it in front of the right person, the right place, the right time, would be huge. I think learning how to talk a little bit differently about what you do to attract other referral partners would be really helpful. I think maybe writing a letter just like that to families you've worked with before, specifically asking for referrals and getting that in their email inboxes and in their mailboxes. Like all these things could be very beneficial to give you a lot more referrals. And then when you get somebody who's not coming from a referral, we can really warm them up and speed up that trust a lot faster with the case studies you're working on, and still collecting as much social proof as possible outside of that, and changing the way we talk about what we do. I think it'll be powerful. So, well, wonderful. Well, thanks for being on the Marketing Makeover Show. And for any of you who have not seen Pocket Marketer yet, I'd encourage you to go to pocketmarketer.ai. Check it out. It's a wonderful tool set for business owners, for entrepreneurs, agency owners, to really give you control over your marketing when a lot of times we don't have control. And that's the biggest thing. Like, you have to go out and hire all these strategists and these agencies, and we don't know if they're going to be successful. But now you get to take control of the whole process without having all the big fees of the agencies and people like me who would charge you 20 grand to sit down and work with you like I'm doing right now. You don't have to do that when I've locked that ability inside the software for you. So there it is. Luann, thanks for being such a wonderful guest.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I can't wait until I see that Google Doc and start playing.
I'm going to get it to you. I've got to go see a buddy of mine for another marketing consultation, and then I'll get it to you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Take care.